we should get started. My name is Jonathan Talbott. I'm a communications advisor with a specialty in verbal communication. That means pitches, presentations, panel discussions, anything starts with a P, really. And I experience, and I think that many of you do as well, a problem in verbal communication, especially when it relates to innovation or startups. And that is what I call the cowboy style of giving a presentation or a pitch. It's the style of, well, there was a book that came out recently called Pitch to Win, and that really got my attention because I don't think that pitching is about winning. I mean, winning, that's all about me. That's just, it's gonna be, I'm so good, I'm the best, I'm awesome, I'm incredible. Actually, Shakespeare wrote something about that. He talked about pitchers. Yeah, the pitcher that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying, in the end, nothing. We need to change the way that we are pitching, because when we are working on big problems, and when we are working on problems with no owner, things like climate change, or world hunger, or energy transition, huge things. We need people. We can't do this alone. And if our whole way of communicating is about we do it alone, then it's not going to happen. There's another problem with pitching, and that is that a lot of people are really afraid of it. Really afraid. And that's normal, because the thing that human beings, this has been proven by research, don't just believe me, the thing that humans are most afraid of is public speaking. Yeah, after that it's spiders and snakes, and after that it's death. So really, we are afraid of speaking in public. And we are also afraid because we don't get very good training on how to do it. So it's not just being afraid of how to do it, it's not knowing what we're doing. So we need to change that. We need to change that. We need to have others, and fortunately, now that we've isolated what the problem is, we can start talking about ways to solve it. And I am somebody who spends a lot of time helping people who give these kinds of talks so that they make sense, better than make sense, that they can influence people, they can enjoy their time communicating with each other. Because as the guy who started TED says, people don't forget things. They just don't remember them in the first place because they're too bored. We can change that. We can start changing that right now. I'm here to help smart people like you. Well, maybe not. Oh, yeah, all of you? Yeah. Help smart people who are freaked out about having to talk to others. Now, the first thing that we have to figure out when we're giving a pitch, the first thing we have to figure out is why you're doing it. What are you there to do? Are you there to inform the audience? Are you there to motivate them in some way? Are you there to engage them? Are you there to persuade them? What are you there to do? And the next thing, actually, and this is the moment where I'm going to look around and see if there's anybody that has anything to write on, because for those at home, you may want to have a new open tab somewhere. You might want to pull out a piece of paper or write on your hand if you want to. That's fine. Because there's going to be a few things that come out here in the next few minutes that might require you to think about something. You might jot a note down and say, wow, that was a good thing. I want to think about that later. So now you've had your warning. The first thing when we're talking about pitching, the first thing after you've figured out why you're there, are you there to inform? Are you there to inspire, to motivate? What are you there to do? After that, the first thing you need to know is, what do you do? Yeah, what is it that you do? And who do you do it for? So I call that the do-who. So if you know who you're doing it for and you know what you're doing pretty well with preparing a pitch, just to get started. That's the first basic pitch. It kind of goes like this. I do this for these people, which is not very difficult, right? And people are looking at me like, I don't know, that's already pretty difficult. No, you can do this. Everybody, I think, can come up with, I do this for these people. Whether that's the people who pay you to do it, or it's the people who you are getting, who you're helping, whose problem it is, it's I do this for these people. And that is a good start, because you are talking about the who and the what and the how. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to realize that in order to communicate with anybody, you have to know something about them. And there are 3 groups that are really important for you to know about. And the first group is the people who are for your idea. Those are the people you've already got. That's your team already. You don't really need to worry about those. We're not talking about them tonight. And then there's the people who are against you. The people who think your idea is crap. And well, I have the tendency to want to say, forget about them too. Actually, they're pretty important people. So we're gonna hold on to those guys. And the people that are really, really useful when you're trying to create community using words, the real useful people are the undecideds, the people who may not have an opinion yet. Or can you figure out how to create undecideds? Can you influence the people who might be against and create them into undecideds? Because undecideds are fun to work with because you can mess with their heads. Yeah, so the way that we mess with their heads is we have 3 tools, 3 basic tools that we use. We need to change their emotion, we need to change their opinion, and we need to change the way that they act. And you know what the best tool for doing that is? Yeah, stories. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to talk about stories. And when we talk about stories, we're going to have to figure out who the characters are. And when you're giving your own story, your own pitch, you need to figure out what role you play in that story. And I have a few pictures here. Are you playing the role of the main character? Are you the hero of your pitch? Or I would like to suggest maybe you're not the hero. Does everybody actually know who these people are? And if you don't, we'll have a film history class later. Or are you perhaps these people? The people who help those heroes on their way? Are we all a bunch of Yodas? And I would like to venture that we are. So I'm going to start speaking backwards from now on. No? Okay, Yodas. We are Yodas. We are mentors. We are the people who are bringing the audience along. We are the people who are bringing the audience along on their journey. Come in, please. Thank you. Yeah. And so we are not the heroes ourselves. We are the people taking the heroes on the journey. We're helping the heroes along. It could be that the audience is the hero, indeed. It could be that the audience is the hero. It could be that the people that you serve is the hero and that the audience is a secondary character. It could be any way. Depends on the situation. But thank you for that question. So here we are. We have heroes. We have mentors. And it reminds me now when we get to the further deeper into storytelling, something that a New York Times reporter figured out in 2007. And we were talking about big problems. We were talking about things like climate change, things like hunger. Well, in this case, in 2007, this particular reporter was reporting from Darfur, where at that time there had been war and genocide and refugees and hunger and every kind of bad thing that you could imagine happening was happening in Darfur. Thousands of people dying per day. And a large portion of the world was sitting aside, not doing anything. Simultaneous to that summer in 2007, there was evidently a puppy dog that got stranded on a boat that sailed out into the sea. It was adrift all by itself. And you know what happened? People heard about that puppy dog on the boat, and they started raising money to get the dog off the boat. And you know how much money they raised? It was almost $50,000 they raised for the puppy dog on the boat. And this New York Times reporter said, wow, if we can raise that much money for a dog on a boat, what could we do about the thousands of people who are dying every day in Darfur? And the funny thing is, it was really difficult. And since then, he's invented this term. It's called the Darfur puppy. And the Darfur puppy was expressed in a really good way by none other than Mother Teresa. She says, when I look at the mass, I will never act. When there's too many, when it's too big, when there's too much, I will never act. But if I look at the one, I will. If you are trying to motivate a group of people to help you out, you need to have concrete examples. It needs to be something that we can hold on to, something we can imagine, and if it's as cute as a puppy, then you're really going to do well. But we need to understand exactly what's going on. So I decided today to bring my best concrete example. My best or almost concrete example. Yes, this is my concrete example. And I'd like to talk with you. I'd like to hear your feedback right now, and I will echo it back for the people online as to the identifying factors, the features, if you will, of this item that I have here. So anybody want to tell me about this item? It's hard, yeah. It's solid. I'm not going to bang on it anymore. It's brown. It's brown. Actually, if I hold it up properly to the light, you would discover that it is, in fact, a special color called brick red. Okay, it's brick red. It's solid. It's rectangular on all sides, in fact, which is pretty cool. Anybody guess how many sides there are? Who paid attention when they were in school? 6, thank you very much. All right, it's solid, it's red, it's rectangular, it's got 6 sides. It's a porous bonding material. It's heavy, by the way, in case anybody was noticing I was switching hands. Okay, now, when I work with startups, they get pretty excited about the features of their thing. They get really excited about the features of the thing. They get so excited that they say, hey, look, we've built a box of plastic that has electronics in it, and it's got a red button on it. Yeah, I'm gonna push the red button. Here we go, yeah? Beep! Isn't that exciting? It works. And then they say, here we are, I've got a moment to pitch, I'm so great, I'm so confident about what I'm doing. Yes, we worked all week for the last week on the blue button. You want to see what the blue button does? And everybody's like, okay, sure. Boop! Aren't we amazing? You want to buy it? And when people don't buy it, they get a little bit depressed. But they've been very proud of the red button and the blue button. And we're very proud of the fact that we have a rectangular, solid, brick red, 6-sided, heavy object. But what's it good for? What do we do with these things? We build stuff like we build stuff like houses. Anything else that we build with or do with these things? You can throw it at people. You can break the house. You can break the windows. You can break this in half and use it some other way. You can build roads. You can build swimming pools. You could build chimneys. You could build bike paths. We do a lot of that in the Netherlands, don't we? So there's a lot of things we can do with this. Now, why do we build houses out of bricks? Because it's solid. Because it's red? Because it's tradition? Because it's resilient. Okay. Because we love the color? Because of the modular ability and that you can cut it in half, thank you, so that you can make a half brick, or you can turn it this way, or you can turn it, or even that way. You can do a lot of different ways because we love our Legos, don't we? Okay, bricks. We can build houses with bricks, but really, let's imagine for a second that you were part of a family. You had 2 brothers that were not particularly bright. You're the 3rd brother, and you're a pig, a little pig. Anybody remember this story that I'm talking about? Has bricks in the story. But the other two not so bright brothers, what did they do? First brother built a house out of straw, right? And that didn't survive very well because there was a hurricane or something, right? Yeah, it was a wolf, right? It had extraordinary breath control. And and then after that, the other brother that was slightly brighter than the first brother, but not very smart, he built his house out of wood, right? And what happened to that one? Also destroyed, right? By the wolf, the very hungry wolf. And then come you. Here you are. You've built your house out of these things, and nobody dies. And the wolf can't get you. So what have you actually done? You have not had a house that is made out of a six-sided object. It's not red necessarily. That's not what's important. The modularity is also not necessarily what's important. What's important is that you're safe. You're safe from wolf attack. In fact, what you've really done here is you've identified the big benefit for the population, in this case pigs, of what this object is. It's not the features which is important, it's the benefit of what you get from it. So let's go back to where we started. I do this for these people so that they can do this. They can be safe, so they can be warm, they can be comfortable, they can not be hungry anymore. There's the big benefit. So I'd like you to think about the big benefit that you are working on, that your target audience receives from what you're working on. And in fact, there may be more than one big benefit, and it may depend on the audience. And this is where I come back to your question, original question, which was, is the audience the hero, or is the target audience, or is the group that you're working for the hero? And it could be both. And when you think about the fact you have multiple audiences, maybe you have a funding audience, and you have the audience which is affected by your solution. Those are two different audiences. Each of them is looking for a benefit. And you can supply that benefit because there are two great forces of human nature. There's self-interest and there's caring for others. And Mr. Gates says that really the best thing to do is to combine the two. That we are the best people, when we are at our best, is when we combine our self-interest and our caring for others. So when you can demonstrate to other people that there is a benefit for them, and there's a benefit for somebody else that they can help make happen. Guess what you just started to create? A community. So we've got the big benefit. And you think about the big benefit that you bring to whatever it is that you're doing, the solution that you're offering, the solution that you're making. And you got the big benefit. And if you think for a minute about the exact opposite of that benefit, the exact opposite. So if it's safety, it's going to be danger. If it's warmth, it might be drafts or just plain cold. What is it that is the exact opposite of the benefits that these people get from your thing? What's the opposite? Think about that for a minute. Because this is a really, really crucial thing to realize, because this is the problem that you're working on. And I came at it the opposite way than you're used to seeing it. You're used to saying, hey, I have a problem, I'm going to try to solve the problem. No, we're going to talk now about the benefits, and the opposite of the benefits is the problem. Now, in the middle of this, in between the benefits and the problem, this is where you, the idea people, are. This is your solution. You guys are the ones that make the benefits possible, right? And if you are like most people, what you would like to spend the most time talking about is your solution. Because logically, you spend the most amount of time on that, right? You know, you guys are busy 9 days a week on this. You're busy 45 days a month on this. You're busy 72 weeks a year. Obviously, you're going to talk about that. But the only thing is, I'm interested in my problem and what my life is like when it goes away. There is, by the way, on this planet, one person who is as interested in your solution as you are. Your mother. Yeah. Yeah. And if there's more than one kid in your family, you're sunk. So, I mean, yeah. So really what we're going to talk about the most is we want to have a big problem. We want to spend the time talking about the problem. I want to know, as an audience member, I want to know that you understand my problem or you understand the problem of the group that you're helping. And I want to know what my life is going to be like when I don't have that problem anymore. And yeah, I do want to know about your solution, but not so much. Here is a very quick TED Talk. Yes, there's a question.
Is it interactive or not?
Yeah, sure. But I will repeat all the questions. That way, we have a mic. Here.
Talk into it and the guys switch the sound on.
This is a really interesting approach you're explaining here. Is there any scientific research explaining that starting with the benefit is better, has a better conversion if you start with the problem? You could start with the presentation like, what if this was possible, and then focus on the benefit? Is there any scientific research?
Is there scientific research? Yes, there is, but it's about equal. If you start with the benefit, it really depends on the situation. I mean, so it's very difficult to give quantifiable information on that. But being aware of the benefit is why I start with that, is because most people who are busy with solutions are stuck in solution land. And they forget, oh yeah, those people. As we know that 70 to 80% of startups fail because they forgot that there's a market. This is immediately bringing us into contact with the people who have this problem, the people who stand to gain from our solution. So that's why I do this. But yes, there is some research. I can try to connect you with that. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions at this point before I move on to the next thing? All right, maybe you'll think of the questions. There's lots of space all over the place. We could even move one of these cushions here and there's space there. Here is a very short TED Talk where a guy uses this form specifically. He spends a long time on the problem. He spends a short time on the solution, and frankly also quite a short time on the benefit, but you will remember the benefit, I guarantee it. Enjoy. This is a good example.
I'm used to thinking of the TED audience as a wonderful collection of some of the most effective, intelligent, intellectual, savvy, worldly, and innovative people in the world, and I think that's true. However, I also have reason to believe that many, if not most of you, are actually tying your shoes incorrectly. Now, I know that seems ludicrous. I know that seems ludicrous, and believe me, I lived the same sad life until about 3 years ago. And what happened to me was I bought what was for me a very expensive pair of shoes, but those shoes came with round nylon laces, and I couldn't keep them tied. So I went back to the store and said to the owner, I love the shoes, but I hate the laces. He took a look and said, oh, you're tying them wrong. Now, up until that moment, I would have thought that by age 50, one of the life skills that I had really nailed was tying my shoes. But not so. Let me demonstrate. This is the way that most of us were taught to tie our shoes. Now, as it turns out, thank you. Wait, there's more. As it turns out, there's a strong form and a weak form of this knot. And we were taught to tie the weak form, and here's how to tell. If you pull the strands at the base of the knot, you can see that the bow will orient itself down the long axis of the shoe. That's the weak form of the knot, but not to worry. If we start over and simply go the other direction around the bow, we get this, the strong form of the knot, and if you pull the cords under the knot, you will see that the bow orients itself along the transverse axis of the shoe. This is a stronger knot. It will come untied less often. It will let you down less, and not only that, it looks better. We're going to do this one more time. Start as usual. Go the other way around the loop. This is a little hard for children, but I think you can handle it. Pull the knot. There it is, the strong form of the shoe knot. Now, In keeping with today's theme, I'd like to point out, and something you already know, that sometimes a small advantage someplace in life can yield tremendous results someplace else. Live long and prosper.
So what we've discovered here is that spending some time on the problem really can get your audience to start understanding the problem. Can anybody name a couple of the ways that he went about getting us to identify with that problem?
You mean
The problem here, yeah.
how we did it?
Yeah, how'd he do that?
Well, he started with storytelling. He tried to give a context by describing his environment, where he went and who he talked to.
In other words, I bought a pair of shoes and they wouldn't stay tied. I took them back to the store and the guy told me that I was tying my shoes wrong. I would have thought that so we're really starting to laugh at this moment.
Exactly.
One of the things I'd really nailed when I was 50 was tying my shoes. Okay, how else did he do it? Anybody? How else did he bring that problem to us? There's a microphone there.
He showed how everybody is doing it wrong.
Yeah, he gave us a scientific, technical explanation of how most of us are tying our shoes. Anybody catch the very first way that he did it? He identified the audience. He made us feel great about ourselves. He says, I understand that the TED audience are some of the most brilliant people in the whole world. And I think that's still true. And here we are, but most of you are tying your shoes wrong. And we're like, no. And then he proves it to us. And I don't think there was anybody here who thought at the end of his problem explanation that you tie your shoes perfectly. We all had that little, this is maybe worth thinking about.
And we'll try tonight.
And we're going to try, people in this room, for those at home, people in this room are looking at their shoes right now and thinking about it. And the solution was so dumb simple. I mean, okay, fine. Not everybody's solution is going to be that elegant. But, okay, and then the benefits. Can we remember any of the benefits?
It won't let you down.
It won't let you down. It looks, that's the one. It's the right, I mean, you had me at looks better. Okay, so what we've got here is a very simple pitch that's about a big problem, a lot of time on the problem, less time on the solution, and in this case, very little time on the benefits. But we understand what's going on, we feel it, we get it because we spend time with the problem. Okay, but how are we going to make this happen for ourselves? How are we going to employ this ourselves? And in order to start really getting onto the next ingredient, I'm giving you a bunch of ingredients now, and in a little while I'll show you the way of assembling the dish. So the next ingredient is going to require you to do a little imagination. It's a little imagination. I want you to imagine that it's 5 years from now. Your solution is actually out there in the world. People are using it. The world has changed. I'm seeing smiles. The world has changed. The world has changed. What's that like? Think about that for a minute. What's that future of 5 years from now when everything is the way that you'd like it to be, the way the solution has scaled, it's gotten big, and things are happening? Think about that for a minute. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you a little story myself. There's these two mountains, and as they slope down, there's a river that comes right in between them, and it creates this beautiful valley right there, this beautiful valley, and there's grass and there's trees, and people come along and they say, wow, this is a great spot, let's make a town here. And they build a town there, and they have the houses, and they go to a church and another church and maybe a factory or two to build nice things, and they have a school and they have a playground, and all the kids go out and they're playing out in the playground all day long, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, ideal place. Until one day, a dragon moves into one of the mountains. and comes down and eats some of the kids. What has to happen now? Kill the dragon. Tame the dragon. There's always these two sides. That's right. We're going to tame the dragon. We're going to kill the dragon. We're going to send the dragon away. That's the option number 3. But somebody's got to do that, right? Somebody has to do that. So either they have to go the Pied Piper thing, and they have to hire somebody to get rid of the dragon, or to tame the dragon, a dragon tamer, or a dragon killer, or a dragon sender awayer. But in any case, there's somebody that has to do that. And this is a very important thing to realize when you are giving a pitch, is that you need to introduce yourself. You need to introduce your team. And it always drives me nuts, the pitches where you get these are the truly young startup pitches. These are the guys that, hi, I'm Tom, I'm the CEO, and this is Joe, he's the CFO, and this is the other Tom, because there's 2 Toms in this one. There's the other Tom, he's the CTO, and there's only 3 of us. That is not the way to introduce your team, by the way, just in case anybody was doubting. That's not the way to do it. Titles don't mean anything. Relevant experience means an awful lot. Hi, I'm Tom. I wrote my thesis on the ways to train dragons. And this is Joe. He's my partner, and he's been training dragons, actually, with very, very good success for the last several years. Suddenly, we have a relevant experience of the team. Why this team is the great team to do the job. While we're talking about persuading people, I want to just introduce you to the concept of the type of language that you're using while you're giving a pitch. This is a total aside. We're moving away from the ingredients for just a second. The type of language you use in terms of the time of language. So, for example, past, present, and future. The past is a fabulous tense. Things were, it was this way. It's a fabulous tense to use. We call it the forensic tense, and it's great for blaming people. We use this in court all the time. This is like every single TV courtroom drama. It was this way and it was that way. This is NCIS. This is the crime scene people, forensics. It's great for the problem, but it's really not that great for motivating people. So if we move over to the present tense, this is the demonstrative tense. This is where we're talking about belief and the things that we are doing. We are working on this problem. We're working hard on this problem. We've been working on it for the last week and a half, and we're still working on it. It's an amazingly difficult problem, and we are here. Values and where we are. But that's not as motivating as the future, which is the deliberative tense. That's the tense that we use when we are trying to create choice, and people want to be able to feel like they chose. You want them to feel like they're choosing you and your team. And the way we can do that is we are working on this, and you can too. See how that works? We just took it into the future, and people see possibility. And they say, hey, wouldn't it be great if you joined us? See, now we're into, ooh, I might do that. I could do that. Now you're creating that doubt we were talking about, that uncertainty. You're playing with the chance of making things happen. So here's your future. Here's your future, 5 years in the future, this beautiful thing that you've just imagined. And now I'd like you to just, and you may have realized I put something on this side of the screen, and then something's about to show up on this side of the screen that's like the opposite. I did that a minute ago with the benefits and the problem. Yeah, okay, so here we are, the future, and there's a reason why the future doesn't exist. The reason why we're sitting here today right now and we're not on the yacht in the Mediterranean, or whatever it is that's the future. What's in the way of having that future happen? Why isn't that existing now? Yeah. Sorry for the downer. Why doesn't the future exist now? There's stuff in the way. And those obstacles are gold for people like me, the guy who's helping you tell your story. That is absolutely the best stuff, Because a story occurs when a sympathetic character runs into a complicating situation and then confronts it and solves it. Let me show you what I mean. This is a complicating situation right there. That is an obstacle. It is a wall, ladies and gentlemen. It is a wall. And we are about to have a sympathetic character. Ready? Here we go. Sympathetic character comes walking in and runs into the wall. This is not a story. This is an explanation. Yep, there's a problem. Sound like most presentations? Yeah, there's a problem here. Yeah, it's a big problem. Somebody better do something about that. This is like politics. All right, let's see if we can make a story out of this. Let's see if we can use this and make a story. So there's a sympathetic character, comes in, experiences a problem, and deals with it. Now, I wouldn't call this a good story. I would call this actually a very, very, very boring story. So let's see what we can do to make it the kind of story that people will hold on to, a sticky story. So sympathetic character comes in, tries to solve the problem, experiences it, tries something and fails, tries again and fails, and eventually makes it across. Yes, we are so excited because we're dancing. That is where we start to create good stories. It's about facing the obstacles. It's about reaching the potential. It's about working for it. It's not about, hey, yeah, we're amazing. We're the best startup in the whole world. We got the best idea and the solution. Yeah, it was really easy. Buy our stuff. No, it's the struggle which is interesting. So let's talk about obstacles. Obstacles get in the way. Obstacles are the things that are conspiring against making this solution happen. Obstacles keep us from the future. And in order to get to the future, you have some stuff that you need. You have some needs, and I'd like you to think about those, because when you address those needs, then people will come and people will help you. And they will help you bridge the gap between the now and the future. And on top of that is not just what you need, but it's what you're going to do with that. You have some plans, right? I hope. And if you don't, we'll work on that part too. So we've got the obstacles. In order to get past the obstacles, you have stuff you need in order to get past the obstacles. And you've got a plan for dealing with it in order to reach the future. And those are our basic ingredients. Those are our basic ingredients. Our basic ingredients is the problem and the solution and the benefit. And it's the future, and it's the obstacles, and it's the needs, and it's the team, and it's the plan. And we're going to put them all together, but I wouldn't be a very good mentor if I didn't give you a magical object. Now, every mentor in every story gives a magical object, whether that's the sword which you can use to, I don't know, slay dragons, shall we say? Or the magic wand that you can use to tame the dragon, or the ring that makes you invisible so the dragon doesn't see you. The magic object. And we, the solution people, we are in the business of making magic objects. That's what we're selling. Is magic, yeah, be proud of yourselves, guys. You're making magic objects. Ideas are magic. Okay, so in order to understand how to do all this, and here's the tool. Here's what I have to offer you. We have to understand stories. Now, I want to confess that I have stolen a little bit of the next part from an author, an American author named Vonnegut. He can't come after me because he's dead, but I have given him credit now, right? We all agree that I've credited him? Good. Okay, now, stories exist on a timeline. And good things happen, we feel good as an audience, and bad things happen, we feel bad as an audience. We get that, right? Okay, so here is one of the big story archetypes right here. It's a fantastic archetype. It has a name. And it's called A Boy's Walking Along the Street, Falls in a Hole, and Climbs Out Again. It's a great story. We know this one, right? We've seen this story many times. Maybe it's not just any boy. Maybe it's an orphan. And I'd like you to think for a second about all the stories where the main character in the story, has something wrong with that person, whether that's a scar on his forehead, or is an orphan. Lots of orphans in stories, right? Or there's something that's not quite right. That's why we have sympathetic characters. And here again, I want to go back to a sports metaphor. Do we root for the team that we know is going to win? Yeah, they're going to win again, great. Ooh. Or do we root for the team that might win? If there's a moment of doubt, yeah, they weren't expected to win, and wow, they did. Just like, well, I'm going to time date this right now. Last night, Ajax just beat Real Madrid. Oh my God. And it wasn't just, it was 4-1. Oh my God. There was a lot of celebration. I don't think there was a lot of celebration in Madrid yesterday, but there was in Amsterdam. Okay, something wrong with your main character. It's a boy. It's an orphan boy. He's living with his aunt and uncle on their farm. He's living with his aunt and uncle on the farm, and the farm is in the desert. I don't know why it's in the desert, but that's just this story, okay? And one day, the uncle buys two new machines to go on the farm, to work on the farm, and he says to the boy, he says, get these two things cleaned up. I want them in the field tomorrow. And the boy, being a teenage boy, he says, no, I was gonna go do something with my friends. And the uncle says, no, not gonna happen, get to work. And the boy does what teenage boys everywhere do. He did half a job. He cleaned up one of the machines and he went into dinner, and he comes back from dinner to discover that one of the machines has escaped. Look, we just crossed the line into bad. Okay, so he goes the next morning after the machine that escaped. He finds it, but he gets attacked by a gang, he gets knocked out. Finally, a old man comes along, he chases off the gang, and then the boy wakes up and he looks at the old man and he says, Obi-Wan Kenobi, what are you doing out here? And Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Luke Skywalker, Luke, you shouldn't be out here. And they says, hey, there's a recording on one of these droids. I think it might be yours. So they go and they listen to this recording and it says, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. And Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Luke, let's go save the princess. And Luke says, no, I have to go back to my aunt and uncle. What happens to aunt and uncle next? They're dead. They get killed. So they go off and they decide that they're going to go to the spaceport. And the next thing they know, they're at the spaceport and they're chopping people's arms off and people are dying right and left. And they get on a spaceship, they fly off to the planet where the princess is supposed to be, except for that planet's destroyed, and then they get into there's a space station, it tractor beams them in, they get into this trash compactor, it gets smushed, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, this is all bad stuff. It's all bad stuff. And eventually they go and they blow up the Death Star and everybody gets medals, and that's really cool. But most of the most influential film from the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, and even the aughts, is bad stuff. It's bad stuff. We are feeling bad. And if you think that I'm just pulling out Star Wars, try reading the Odyssey sometime. Odysseus starts out with a whole lot of guys and a whole lot of ships, and he ends up being all alone because they get eaten by cyclopses, they get turned into pigs, they just don't make it. Bad stuff. Okay, here's another story. This one is a better story, yeah, because this is a girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy, girl loses boy, girl finds another boy. Yeah, or any of the variations on that, depending on the gender. This is every buddy comedy. This is E.T., and there's a question. I can repeat the question. It's okay. Oh, we found the microphone.
How would you draw the line when you watch news?
When you watch the, oh, we'll get to the news in just a second. Yeah. Tell me if you recognize it when we get there. All right, so this is the love story. So we've got the boy falls in a hole story, and we've got the love story. And just in case you thought that every story ended with a happy Hollywood ending, I've got this one for you right here. This one's called From Bad to Worse. And it's Game of Thrones, every episode. Yeah, because, you know, your favorite character, here you are, yeah, favorite character, I like him, he's great. Okay, but this is also Titanic. Anybody see? Yeah, right. Does not end well, just spoiler. This is the second episode of every trilogy. This is, frankly, the reason why we binge watch. Because this part right here, it's like, hey, wait, that can't be real. No, that's got to resolve. They've got to get back together. I don't know. This is a very, very deep motivator. When it's unresolved bad feeling, it's an enormous motivator for us as humans. Now let's see what most pitches and presentations look like, and frankly, part of the news. Here we go with the pitches. This is the pitches and presentations. Yeah, we've got a great thing. It's a fantastic thing. We've been working really hard, and it's all success. And everybody's going to make pots and pots of money. It's wonderful. Aren't we great? And here's what the audience, and this is also kind of the way that the news works. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Maybe. Huh. Wonder what's on my iPhone right now. Which is actually really interesting, and I don't have this on the graph because it's hard to plot, but the audience feeling during the question round, they usually get the positive feeling, and the presenter during the question round, we can work with that. We can work with that. So that's the big tool. That's the big tool, but the question is really how you might be able to apply that in your own situation. Because I wouldn't be a good mentor if I didn't show you how to use the magic object, right? So we're going to go back to presentations, we're going to go back to pitches, and we're going to talk about the good feelings and the bad feelings in your audience. And we're going to talk about the timeline, and we're going to start with this story. The boy falls in a hole. And you start out with every good pitch, every good verbal communication, you start out with, hello, I am. And if your audience isn't experiencing that as a positive, you're in trouble. So let's hope that hello, I am is a positive. Yes. Uh-oh, he's gonna challenge me on whether saying hello, I am is a positive.
A quick nuance on two graphs you showed just now.
Yeah.
You started with this boy falls in a hole. This girl gets a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But it both started with this girl, this boy.
Mm-hmm.
How do we make it clear that it's the normal line or above it?
I wouldn't worry too much about that at this point. Right now, you are the speaker, so you're the first person they come in contact with. They should have a positive experience, I hope, with you. There are moments, I hope that this isn't what you're going to run into, but there are moments where coming in and being positive and saying, hi, I am, is not a good thing. Hi, I'm Jonathan Talbott, and you're all going to be fired. That's not a great way to start. You need to start with a down on that. But in the general pitching, we want to start with an up, and then we want to hit down as fast as we can. We want to get to that problem. Remember the problem? We want to get to that problem as fast as possible. And we want to be clear. Remember Mother Teresa on that problem. We want to be concrete. We want it to be understandable. We want your audience to feel this. There is a comet coming towards the Earth. It's going to kill everybody unless we do something about it pretty soon. Okay, what we just did there was we identified the problem, we identified who has the problem, and we identified that there's a timeline on getting this problem solved. Like, real soon. Really soon. Okay, so whatever it is, and you can do this with paper clips, you can do this with big problems, you can do this with small problems, but I want to feel the urgency of that problem. I want your audience to feel that you understand the depth of that problem. So we've started out with a positive, we go down into the negative land, we go into the bad feeling land, and then our way out is, now we got the problem, we got the comet, it's coming towards the planet, it's going to kill everybody, we better do somebody better do something about that. What do we need? Yeah, we need Superman. Okay, so this is where you introduce, and this is the end of the boy falls in a hole story. It's very simple. There's a problem in this world, and we have a team which is equipped to deal with it. Bam. Wow. And what you just created is, when the news people see this, they're like, human interest story. Oh my God, we're going to write about them because they're a team that's qualified for dealing with this problem. See what I haven't done yet? Solution. It's not there yet. Oh my God, did I forget the solution? We're going to need the love story for the solution. That's what we need. We need a love story for the solution. Right, so let's talk about the solution. But let's not talk about the solution for this long. Let's talk about the solution for this long. And let me show you how the master did it. This is the guy who pulled out a technology that changed all of our lives. All of our lives. And this is the moment he did it.
An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. No. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now. So,
Did you see that?
before we get into it, let me talk about a category of things. The most advanced phones are called smartphones. So they say.
Steve, there's something in your pocket. I'd like to see it, please. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? That's a big tease. That's like the world's biggest flirt right there. He got everybody, and the audience is going, no, really? Because he didn't do what we all feel like doing. Yeah, and here's the red button, and here's the blue button. Beep, 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 it's amazing. I've worked really hard. Give me applause. No, and he goes, and this is our thing. I'm going to make a joke about this technology that we've just spent the last 5 years investing billions of dollars on. I'm going to make a joke about it. And then I'm going to pull it out of my pocket, show it to everybody, and then I'm going to put it back in my pocket and go on for another 20 minutes until I pull it out again. That's ballsy. Good luck, anybody. But what he does is he creates this magical moment where everybody says, I want that. I want to get my hands on that. I want to find out more. I want to find out more. Which is so different than, hey, I'd like to check my email right now. I want to find out more. So there we are. You've introduced the problem. We feel the problem. You've introduced the team and their relevance, and we've reached a solution. The solution that you've been working on. And you've introduced it this much, keeping us interested. And now you're about to tell us, no, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you can't have it. Because there's obstacles in the way. There's a lot of problems we've got, and we can't manage to get that solution finished. In fact, there are so many obstacles that we're going to need some help. We have some needs. And here is, just to complete some of my references, here is a very important moment in every pitch. Probably the most important moment of every pitch. This is where you will start to achieve your goals of motivating people and creating a community. This is the moment where you go like this.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You ask. You ask for the things that you need. You've gone through here, you've said, hey, there's this great solution that we've come up with which is going to help a lot of people, but there's a lot of stuff in the way. And in order to get over these obstacles, we need help. And you, ladies and gentlemen, are the people who can help me. I need this, I need that, and we have a plan of attack in order to make that we're not just stupid guys asking for help. No, we are actually smart guys asking for help, and we know what to do with the help. And we'd really like to have you come on board and help us out in whatever way you can. Because together, we're going to be able to reach the great benefits and bring it to each other and to the world. So this is what we're going to go through. This is the big tool in terms of telling stories and generating involvement and community. You go through the problem to the team, to the solution in brief, and believe you me, at this point over here, if you haven't come back to your solution, they're going to ask. And you get to say, yeah, and there's a red button, and I'm really proud of the red button. That's great. You want that moment. But solution, enough, but not too much. Obstacles, the reason why you can't have the solution yet. What we need, we're going to ask for what we need, and then we're going to tell, hey, look, there's a way that we're going to be able to achieve things. There's a plan in place. We're working towards it. We're going to get to that future together in order to achieve benefits. Now, I have one thing I want to say about that little iPhone moment. One thing, do you want your presentation of your solution, do you want it to be erotic or do you want it to be pornographic? Yeah, they're getting it. Do you want it to be erotic or do you want it to be pornographic? The difference is in how much you show and how much time you spend on it. Yeah? Please, please start pitching erotically. The world doesn't suffer from a shortage of great ideas. The world has a big problem communicating those ideas. We have tools that we can use. We've been using them for the past, say, 10,000 years. We just need to use them to communicate your ideas, your technology, your solutions, and then we can make great things happen. At this moment, I'd like to take any further questions that there are. I don't know where the microphone has gone. And if there are online questions, somebody's going to pass them to me.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you showed a quick video of Steve Jobs presenting the iPhone.
Yeah.
Did he continue the same path after the solution like you did there or not?
Yeah. Steve Jobs did a brilliant job. The iPhone, the iPhone presentation is one of the things that we study in presentation school. It's like, oh my God, how do you do that? He goes up and down with emotion the whole time. He goes between the past and the future. The next thing he did, for example, right after that, he was saying, when I cut it off there, he said, let me tell you about a type of phone, the so-called smartphone. And then he starts showing a graph of what the current things on the market were and how horrible they were. See, so we're now into this negative land. We're into this. And then he starts showing what it could be like. And about then is when he starts to pull out his new technology and we're all like, wow, this is what it could be like. So he's using exactly the same thing, up and down, up and down, up and down, all the way through until the very end.
Did he show an obstacle right there, like what he needed from the audience, like develop apps on it? Was that an obstacle that he did?
In this case, because it was all brand new, I mean, it was just completely, nobody had ever imagined that there would be a touch smartphone with different apps on it. He was just showing us possibilities, showing the world possibilities at that point. He was not exactly talking about the problems that his team faced with developing it. I think that might have been fun, but that wasn't the purpose of that particular pitch. He was trying to get customers. He wasn't trying to get people to assist him on his journey in that way. Other questions? There's a question over there. I can pass the microphone over there. See, I managed to do it without going past the speaker and making it hiss. Yes?
So, yeah, I have a question about the storyline.
Yeah.
I've been pitching a lot lately about the startups.
Mm-hmm.
And one point they always say, or has to be added in it, is the traction and achievements.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned not to talk too much about that. But where would you add that within the storyline?
I would do that. I will bring my graph back up. Traction and achievements, right there. Right there. Almost at the very end. The very end is the benefits. You could, traction and achievements also could be in your team section. It could very well be in the team section. Hey, you know, we've been working together for the last 5 years and we've achieved a few things with each other. Look at that. That's relevant team information.
But it all has to be within 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that fun?
It's fun.
Yeah, it makes me always think about, we go visit every summer, we go visit my in-laws on an island in Lake Huron in Canada. And it just so happens to be that that island produces almost the largest amount of maple syrup of any geographical area in the world. Now, maple syrup is this substance that comes from maple trees. Now, in order to make maple syrup, you take the sap in March or April from the maple trees, you take buckets and buckets and buckets of it, and you pour it into a great big pot, and you let that pot sit on a fire for a long time until the 80 liters of sap has turned down into 2 liters worth of syrup. You get where I'm going here? Yes. There's a huge amount of information about your traction and about your problem and the solution and the obstacles that you're facing and how much money you need and, but you have to boil it down. You have to make choices. And for each audience, what your goal is going to be different. I didn't promise it was going to be easy. Other questions? See, they're doing a good job. Can you help with the microphone? Thanks.
So what I've learned on what works good for me when I prepare a presentation is to have a good start and a good ending, and then work on what's in the middle.
The sandwich approach.
Yeah. Do you have any other better approaches?
I think that's a pretty good approach, except for I would start with the end. Okay. I'd start over there, which is frankly what I did with you. I start usually saying, hey, what is the result that you want to achieve? What is the call to action going to be? What are we trying to make happen? And then how can we build everything to that moment? Now, a great start is incredibly important, because without that, the audience is like, wake me up when it's over. So there you are. But everything else needs to be part of the build up towards the moment where you are going to reach that big idea, the call to action, the what we call in TEDland, idea worth spreading. All of that needs to be there as you get started. So if it's the end, that's the end. I always really like to get the end sorted out pretty fast, because then I know what I'm wasting my time on, what I can leave out because it's not appropriate anymore. Yeah, does that help?
Yeah.
There was a question next to you.
Yeah, what is the percentage is when the story must be authentic.
Yeah.
That if he is telling me my story or I telling my story, what's the difference in result?
Let me try to rephrase the question so I check that I understand it. You mean, okay, first off, when I'm pitching somebody's idea, is it my idea or somebody else's idea? Well, the ideal thing would be that you gave a pitch that was so sticky that somebody else could reproduce it. That would be amazing. That would be a big goal. But first off, you yourself, yeah, this is why I've had this happen to me many times. I'm helping somebody and they say, wow, you put that so well. Could you stand up there for me instead? I can't do that because it's not my thing, it's their thing. So my job is to help my clients do a good job instead of me doing it for them. That's one. So that's the authenticity part of the question. However, one of the best uses of a pitch is when people can take elements of what you talked about and introduce you to somebody else. Oh yeah, you got to meet him. He was the guy who... And that's maybe me repeating your story. And that's what we want. That is no longer authentically his story, but they're telling the third person your story for you, so that then you can come in and say, hey, I've got a red button and a blue button, and you don't have to do that first part because they've already gotten interested. So that's what I'm looking for, is the repeatability, but the first one really does need to be your thing. Does that help? Yeah? We're going back and forth here. I go this way and Kim will go the other direction. Yeah.
What if you have only 2 or 3 minutes for a pitch?
Yeah.
For this this storytelling is like 10 or 20 minutes, but if
No. You can do this in. I'm going to have to one day. I'm going to have to get a startup idea, and I'm going to have to use this as an example. But okay. Hi, my name is Jonathan Talbott. There is a comet that's coming towards the planet. It's going to kill everybody, and we better do something about it fast. That's why I've asked Superman to come help us out. Superman has actually an awful lot of skills that he's developed in the last several years to be able to push comets out of the way. Unfortunately, we've discovered that, how am I doing on time? Still within 1 minute, I think. Unfortunately, we've discovered that half of the comet is made out of kryptonite. So therefore, we're going to need to develop a lead suit for Superman. In order to do that, we're going to need your help, engineers, to design a flexible lead suit that is thick enough to protect Superman so that he can help us save the planet. Okay. It's possible to do. And that was just recorded, so now I don't have to do that again. Anything else? After I've saved the planet? I mean, what else is there?
Sometimes I've heard about how much you can comprehend and understand of a story, and people told me you should use the power of 3 or the power of 5. Is there a maximum of cues people will remember? So if you need to choose between 3 or 5, what would be best, or is it depends?
I'm so happy you asked that question. This has to do with memory. This has to do with what people can comprehend at any one time. The current research, well, actually, the old research on this, and the same guy redid his research and found another number, but I'll get to that. See, that's the cliffhanger part. The old research on this was that human beings, regardless of how smart you are, and I'm afraid regardless of what your gender is, so much for that multitasking thing, can process 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of discrete information at one time. I repeat myself. That is 7 plus or minus 2. Ready with that? That's 9 to 5. Pieces of individual information at one time. So if you give people, 7 things, they should be able to handle it. But the bad news is that they redid the research. And they've recently found out that it's more like 5 plus or minus 2. Okay, so on a day where people are over-processed, say they're on a pitch competition and there's been a lot of information going across their minds, and they're also wondering what they're going to eat for lunch and what time they're going to get home, so that takes up some of their thought process. 3 is really the best thing. 3 examples, 3 things that, 3 things to connect, 3 things that might work together. Reason why you don't introduce some new stuff over here. You try to introduce the connection between the problem and the benefit, because then they can see the connection, and that's only 3 things. That's not like an extra new thing. 3 things at a time, but having one goal and trying to achieve one goal, that's doable. Trying to achieve 3 goals at one time, Napoleon had a problem with that. See how that worked? Yeah.
A really interesting question. If we would try now to improve the magic tool, if we would say, if we choose 3,
yeah,
power of 3, where would you put the knowledge in this graph?
Knowledge or emotion?
Let's say we have a mission. We want them to remember 3 things. We don't care what it is, but we want to remember 3 things, and it's all about action after the presentation.
Okay.
Call to actions.
First thing is, you can expand on that 3 things by putting things into chunks. You can give, I'm going to try to, I'll use my favorite example on this. I want you to go to the grocery store. I want you to get some onions, some tomatoes, and some ground meat. Okay, and there you are, you've got your 3, and you can hold on to that 3. But say I want to say, add, I want you to get onions, ground meat, tomatoes, and Parmesan cheese. I just took you into 4, which is going to tax your memory. However, if I say to you, I want you to go to the store and get the ingredients for pasta bolognese, for a ragu, for a tomato sauce for pasta, then suddenly you've got things. You just chunked it into one higher thing, and now you have 1 message rather than 3. Or you might have given the 3, but then given it a label to put it up into 1. Yep. So there's a lot of ways that you can use knowledge. But this is where I said, is it knowledge or is it emotion? Because the things that help us remember stuff is the emotional content. The things that make it actually stick is the, holy cow, that's a big problem. How is anybody going to be able to deal with it? Oh, they actually know what they're doing. Whoa, I can't have this. You promised me this beautiful solution, but I can't have it. I need to help you. That's all emotion. So at that point, what do I need to do? That would be the thing I'd really aim for. What do I need from you? What am I supposed to do? But we need to know the problem. We need to feel the problem. We need to understand that the solution's worth doing. I mean, yeah, right, they got a silly solution. I don't want to help these guys.
Is the power equal at the bottom and at the top? Like when you classify the emotion power when it's negative and positive, what sticks best?
Negative emotions actually stick longer than positive emotions, which is entirely weird, but we have, we're human. Yeah, if I take, okay, it hurts more if I take something away from you. The quality of pain or pleasure is almost twice as much when I take it away as when I give it to you. When you get something, you get, oh wow, I feel great. Okay, you feel great. But then I take it away, you're like, hey, you can't have that. And that is approximately twice the amount of magnitude of feeling as the pleasure you get. So yeah, negative stuff, that's why stories work, is because it's all like, you know, bad stuff, but we need to resolve it.
Okay.
So I can't give you numbers, I'm afraid, and I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, let's say it's 3, and would you just repeat it once at the best times in your story, or would you say you do the wrap-up like a lot of American people do, try to start with it in the beginning and round up in a conclusion by repeating it?
Yeah, you could do the what they call the rules for preachers. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. You could do it that way, but also works for kids, by the way. I'm about to ask you to go upstairs and go brush your teeth and get your pajamas on. Could you please get your pajamas? Did you get your? Now you know what life's like in my house. Works for everybody, but not in my house. All right. You can use that, but that's also somewhat of a waste of time when you've only got 3 minutes or 2 minutes to do it. What you really want to make sure is that whatever you're trying to achieve at that end is what you achieve. And the funny thing is, usually that 3-minute mark happens, you know, right about here in your pitch, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't get to the good stuff. You need to make sure that the good stuff is achieved. So you need to make sure this stuff is short enough to reach the actual call to action, the question you want to do. That needs thing, because that's the reason why you're there. That's the whole reason. But you got to build that with this stuff. I'm not giving you the best, most straightforward answer, I know that, but I'm not sure I can, without getting into great detail, specific detail, if I can give you any more.
Yeah, it helps, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is there also a difference between the offline presentation and the online presentation and in text?
In terms of talking to people or in terms of writing it down?
Yeah.
I can...
The impact of social media, for example.
Oh, the impact. Okay, so if you're doing a social media, yeah. I mean, in terms of video, for example, if you're doing a video on a social media, this is fabulous. This is the hook. This is the thing that people really want to pay attention to, right there. And then, yeah, they're interested in a bit of the cool solution. But the minute you offer the solution, they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Maybe on social media, they're like, how's it work? Okay, so then they stick around a little bit longer, but that's more the engineering people. If that's the people you're trying to attract, great. If you're trying to attract somebody else, not so great. So then you need to explain, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking for your help to do this, because I understand that what we're aiming for is trying to build communities here. We're trying to add people, and you only add people by asking them to help, asking them to join, asking them to be part of things. I see a reaction to this.
On the problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's different ways to sort of present the problems. You can do it in a negative way, saying, oh, it's so hard, oh, you're stuck, your things, but you can also present it in a positive way, in the sense of, are you willing to open up, are you willing to, or are you looking for? Is there a way, what you would recommend to use in a pitch?
So happy you asked it that way. This is great. This is like level 2.0 that I'm looking for right there. When you present as a presenter from a situation of vulnerability, when you say, I'm not perfect, I am looking for collaboration, I am trying to achieve results together, we're trying to create something, we're trying to create a movement, then, yeah, there's an opportunity, and this problem is an opportunity that we're trying to create a way that we can, but some problems are also just really nasty problems, you know, global hunger. I'm not sure how you present that necessarily as an opportunity.
No, but what I mean, maybe not so much even the opportunity, but say global hunger. I mean, I could say, oh, it's so bad, everybody is so hungry and that we need food and people are dying. But I could also say, wouldn't it be great if there's a world where nobody is dying, that everybody has enough food and we share all the food we have?
You're still presenting the negativity.
Yes, I know, but it's a different way of sort of...
Yeah, it's a completely different way. Okay, so there are people that are dying, there are people that are hungry. Wouldn't it be great if we could solve that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if we all could start working together to solve that? Now, my foundation has a plan. See what we just did? We just flipped it, actually, a little bit. There we put solution first, and then we put team second. Fine. Again, what you were saying, what you were saying before about, hey, could we start with the benefit instead of starting with the problem? Go right ahead. Imagine a world, I mean, welcome to advertising. Imagine a world where there was no hunger. Imagine a world where everything was shared together. And then we take the needle off the record and go, that's not the world we have. But we could try to create it. That's the up and down. But you could start with the benefit. Fine, great. There's no rules here. They're all pretty flexible, but all I'm asking you to do is to consider how you're going to try to activate people and motivate them. There was a question over here. This microphone has legs. It's going to have to...
Yes, more in general about maybe some tips for preparing pitches.
Sure.
So when I first wrote a pitch and someone was helping me with it, he looked like he wanted to rip the paper apart because he said, this is presentation language, it's not pitching language.
Okay.
So you need to keep your message simple and short, I guess, especially in a 3-minute time span. Do you have some tips in general for preparing and practicing, and what would be or what would you say is the optimal amount of tries before you really go for it? So more practicing in general.
Well, the first question I would ask of you is, what is before you really go for it? What does before you really go to it mean to you?
Well, how many times would you recommend preparing it before you do your actual pitch?
How much time you got?
Yeah.
That would be the amount of time that I would use. You got to recognize that the people who are idea people, I call you all idea people, the people who are inventing things, who are creating the solutions, the startups, the prototypers, the coders, you're all working on that thing, and you're doing a great job on that thing, and it's fantastic. But if nobody knows about it, nobody can support you. So if you spend the same amount of time, working on communicating it as you do on building it, imagine what would happen. Now I know that that's never, ever, ever going to happen. I get it. But put that as an idea. Have I figured out a way to communicate to other people the value of this solution? Have I figured out a way to talk to this target audience about the value of my solution, or what it means to them, or what their problem is and what aspect of their problem we're working on? Have I figured out a way, and you don't have to do this all in one afternoon, have I figured out a way to talk about the relevance of my people towards solving their problem? Or do I have a guy on my team who's completely irrelevant? Oh, wait. No, I'm not talking. You need to spend as much time as you can thinking about your communication things and getting out there and trying them out on people. Absolutely. Hey, does it make sense if I talk about it this way, or does it make sense if I talk about it that way? Record yourself. 2 days later, come back and listen to it and go like, who is that idiot? I do that. But I work in communication, so I don't have to build the prototypes, so that's easier for me. Yeah? Did that come close? Yeah? All right, we're going to get the last couple of questions here.
One time I cried during my presentation because I cared too much. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes you get really annoyed at yourself.
Yeah.
Are there any tricks to keep your emotion in check?
Well, number one, as you actually said, keeping your emotion out of check can help, but it really depends. I mean, what you're being emotional about.
Exactly.
If you're crying about the frustration that you're not getting your message out, that's not helping you.
That was not the type of cry.
Okay, but I mean that can happen. Whereas somebody gets so caught up in the whole everything that tension. That's not the tension we want. But how do you release yourself? The first thing is recognizing that there's a floor. And that you are standing on that floor, and that you are standing on that floor with all of the feet that you actually own. And that above those feet, there are also knees. And those knees, they actually have the ability to wiggle. And here's, you think I'm making this up. They're above the knees, there's a joint that's called the hip joint. And once you unlock that hip joint, and you will discover in a few minutes, if you stand up and you do this, you start to smile. It's crazy. You start smiling, and the reason why you start smiling is that the minute you unlock your hip joints, you've unlocked your entire back and all of your breathing apparatus, and suddenly it's like, whoa, I'm free. That's how you can...
It's pretty crazy because I started to dance when I started to cry.
Start to dance and cry at the same time. Wow.
So that got me out of the emotion.
Well, without seeing that, I'm not sure exactly how to help you, but... Would you like to come up here and try...
No, okay, thank you.
Do we have a last question? We have a last question.
Yeah, it's also a more general question, but do you have some examples of good call to actions at the end?
Examples of good calls to action.
Depends on the audience, of course.
It's entirely dependent on the audience. Because the one audience you're going to be saying, hey, I want your money, and another audience is going to say, hey, I want your time, and another audience is going to say, hey, I would like you to buy my thing, and another one says, hey, could you join our board of directors? And another one, it's use this, test this. Gee, did I just offer a bunch of calls to action right there? It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just help us out. We could do this together. We really need help. These are legitimate calls to action that aren't often used in pitches. Usually it's like, hey, we're amazing. And then, did you have a question? Oh yeah, we need $1 million, okay?
Yeah, but sometimes the goal is not so clear. Sometimes it's not that you're really asking for capital or something. It's just, for example, pitching to other startups or improving your pitch or...
Improving your pitch, I would always go for. Pitching to other startups, a complete waste of time.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, except for the practicing part. Absolutely. And then getting to know each other, that's lovely. That's all great. But talking to people who can make a difference to you, finding those people, connecting with them, that's really where you want to spend your time. Otherwise, going to pitch competitions, are the right people for you going to be there, or is it just people in startup world? Or are there people who actually can help you? And if that's the case, then go for it. But if it's not the case, spend your time going someplace else, and everybody's gonna be like, where'd they come from? Wow, they're successful. Look at that. And they did it without having to waste all their time in pitch competitions. That's my recommendation. But I don't like competitions that much anyway. Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of things that are going to go on. Part of the impulse tonight for this specific webinar and workshop was that there is an enormous hackathon coming up in April, the Odyssey Hackathon. And part of the idea was to start preparing teams for that. I would like to remind everybody, yes, it is a hackathon. There is a competition element to it. There will be winners, yes. But if you work hard on creating, and I'm really glad you asked that question at the end, if you work hard on creating your community, if you work hard on finding your supporters, if you talk to absolutely everybody who could conceivably help you all the time, and you keep on asking for help, and you keep on letting people know how they could help you, there won't be one winner. There will be 100 winners. So go for it. Thank you. And I'm waiting to see if the camera's been turned off. Somebody tell me the camera's been